Hello, I'm Richard Farrow, CEO of APMG International, and it's my pleasure to introduce this episode of the APMG Partner Spotlight, a platform for key leaders to present their innovative solutions for today's business challenges. I'd like to welcome our guest, Dominic Ashley-Timms, CEO of Notion and co-author of The Answer is a Question. To quote Dominic himself, "The old playbook for management is broken, but how do we fix it?" Today, Dominic will give valuable insight into how, with the Essential Star Manager program, leaders can spark the growth of a genuine coaching culture, one where managers naturally adopt a coaching mindset in the moment, empowering their teams and colleagues. Please stay tuned for a live Q&A segment and submit your questions for Dominic during the main presentation. I hope you enjoy this session.
Thanks, Richard. Hello, my name is Dominic Ashley-Timms and I'm the CEO of Notion, a performance improvement consultancy that's been working with organisations, leaders and managers around the world for the past 25 years. We're all living through one of the most significant shifts in the world of work in a generation. The old rule books are gone. So over the next 15 minutes, let's talk directly about what this means for you as a manager and explore a concrete approach to not just survive, but to lead your team with confidence through this new landscape. Whilst you may not be familiar with what's happening in the leadership and management press over the past few years, it can't have escaped your notice that the world of work is changing dramatically and that the pace of change is only accelerating. From changes to the workforce as the newest generation joins our ranks, changes in our workplaces as we choose where we'll actually carry out our day-to-day work, to the changes being brought about by advances in technology and more helpful tools like artificial intelligence. As AI continues to relieve us of the need to carry out day-to-day processes, the nature of the skills we'll all need to develop in this emerging future of work will be critical. The reality of our workplace is that only 1 in 10 employees are engaged in their work, meaning that 9 out of 10 are unhappy. On top of that, as Gen Z are entering the workforce, they don't want to be managed. They want to find a manager that can cultivate their skills and allow them to grow. They don't want to be directed or micromanaged. They want to be coached. And when they're not getting that, they leave. It's clear that something needs to change, as the traditional approaches to management we've been using for the past century aren't keeping pace with the huge changes we're all experiencing. Does this sound familiar? Just for a second, think about your own situation as a manager. Which of these are you experiencing? Are you overwhelmed, stressed perhaps, or feeling overworked? Are you having to fill the gaps, perhaps doing more than one person's work when you're filling in for people who've left due to poor employee retention? Do poor levels of employee engagement mean that things are difficult to progress? Are you seeing a shift in people's values and what they expect from work, or a greater focus on work-life balance, perhaps wanting to spend more time working from home? How are you managing your team when they're not there to manage, and how are you proactively maintaining their well-being? Research by the Chartered Management Institute has shown that 82% of all managers are accidental managers, promoted into their roles on the strength of their technical skills, but who've had absolutely no training whatsoever to help them better engage with team members. Perhaps you're struggling with challenging conversations, or you're even intentionally avoiding having those conversations you know you need to have. Maybe you've got multi-generational teams to work with, or finding increasingly that you're being pulled into performance management conversations. While the expectations of managers and leaders today are already high, one thing is absolutely true already. Knowledge is no longer power. AI has put pay to that by democratizing knowledge. I can already carry out the research I need in 20 minutes that would have taken one of my analysts several days to pull together for me. Whilst the technical and vocational skills that you've developed and the qualifications you hold will continue to have some value, increasingly, we're seeing that the differentiating skills that you'll need to survive into the future world of work will be your human skills. As an aspiring manager, a manager or leader, your ability to get things done through the willing participation of other people will be a critical measure of your effectiveness in the future. Being able to draw on their skills and talents to help you solve problems more quickly or develop new and creative solutions will deliver higher value that your employer can capitalize on for a competitive advantage. Whether you're a project manager, you work in IT, lead a team, or an organization, your singular ability to communicate and engage with others are rapidly becoming the new power skills that will mark out those managers who can from those who will be relieved of work. We're on the side of managers and leaders facing into this complex future, and that's why I want to introduce you to Star Manager, a new approach to managing and engaging with others that's been proven to work in one of the world's most extensive randomized control trials of its kind. But more on that later. In our work with leaders and managers around the world, we started to identify some common behavioral traits that meant that as managers and leaders, we tended to take on more work ourselves. This is because, in the absence of any other training, we tend to default to problem solving all of the time. It's what probably got us promoted in the first place. And when people come to us for help, we feel obliged to provide the solution, to direct the action, to help keep the show on the road. We feel responsible. But if we begin to examine this closer, we see that we're actually denying other people the chance to show us the thinking they could do. And we've closed off any opportunity to give people appreciative feedback. But what if we could learn to break those habits, to not direct or fix in that precise moment, but instead take a moment to think, how would that change things? Well, for one thing, we begin to recognize that the people around us have skills and talents that we're not drawing on. Not stepping into every problem presented to us would force us to consider how we're engaging team members and give us the opportunity to find a different way. The old playbook of management, command and control, being the expert, having all the answers, isn't just outdated, it's broken. It doesn't work with a hybrid team. It doesn't build trust. It doesn't retain talent. Today, you're caught in the middle, feeling the pressure from leadership for results, while also being responsible for the engagement, well-being, and performance of your team. You are the single most critical link, and you need a new approach to succeed. This is precisely the gap Star Manager is designed to fill. It's not about adding more to your plate. It's about making the work you already do more impactful. The program teaches a style called operational coaching. Put simply, this isn't about scheduling formal coaching sessions. It's about transforming the hundreds of small daily interactions that you have, the quick check-ins, the project updates, the feedback conversations, into powerful moments that build clarity, capability, and confidence in your team. This involves not just a change in behavior, but a mindset shift. And it isn't something you can be taught, but is something that happens as you undertake the Star Manager program. As you gain a sense of the change in impact you're having, as you begin to apply some of what you're learning during the experiential aspects of the program, your focus as a manager begins to change. So what does this look like in practice? By adopting this approach, you move from being the problem solver to being a capability builder. You'll learn how to build genuine engagement by asking better questions that give your team members ownership instead of just giving them answers. You'll drive meaningful performance by empowering and enabling your people to think for themselves and take true accountability for their results. You'll create psychological safety by building a foundation of trust where people feel safe to speak up, admit mistakes, and innovate. And crucially, you'll boost your own confidence by equipping yourself with a clear, reliable framework to handle almost any management conversation with less stress and more impact. On the strength of our work with some major clients, the UK government approached us because they wanted to know whether operational coaching could solve the UK's productivity crisis, and eventually chose to put it to the test in the world's largest randomized controlled trial of its kind to assess the impact that changing managers' behavior could have on the outcomes for their teams and organizations. One of the primary measures of the research conducted by the London School of Economics focused on the change in how managers spent their time. Two of the factors on the left of this slide, the amount of time they spent coaching versus the amount of time they spent doing the work themselves, were assessed at the outset as almost equal between the purple intervention group and the grey control group. Interestingly, but not surprisingly as managers, you can see that we're all doing a lot of the heavy lifting, with roughly 45% of our time doing the work ourselves. But look what happened after just 6 months. The percentage of time that managers were now spending coaching their team in the flow of work increased by a massive 70%, whilst the amount of time they spent doing busy work fell by almost 30%. LSE found that managers not only generated an average 74 times return on investment, they regained more than 20% of their time back. LSE's research led the government to conclude that the results were robust, but more importantly, that operational coaching represented a universal skill set for all managers. The Star Manager program has been developed with this in mind, and regardless of your qualifications, personality, or your people engagement skills, the program will help you develop a bona fide technique for engaging with others using the skills of purposeful inquiry. Since the publication of the research by LSE, there's been a massive interest in this advanced management technique, and operational coaching has been discussed in over 150 publications as the future of management, has won multiple awards for innovation in learning design, and its impact has even been discussed on the BBC. Author and business journalist Matthew Said was kind enough to pronounce that operational coaching redefines the purpose of management for the 21st century. Since we began working with APMG to offer Star Manager to a global audience, there are now certified Star Managers in over 40 countries who are making a difference to the teams that they're managing and the people they're engaged with every day. Here are just a few comments from the hundreds we receive each week. Jess from Premier Foods described the program as short-term effort for long-term benefit. And we've had others say that once they've gained these skills, they can't unlearn them. Paul from Jewson, working in store operations, described the approach as a real eye-opener and how small changes can have a positive and long-term benefit on his team delivering efficiencies and reducing workloads. And an L&D partner from the NHS said that employee satisfaction had risen as evidenced by lower turnover rates and higher engagement levels. He described STAR as having truly been a game changer. Many managers also report winning valuable time back for them to reinvest in higher value tasks and in spending more time coaching their team in the flow of work. So let's take a moment to look at the STAR programs available through APMG. Firstly, the Certified STAR program is broken into two halves, STAR Coach, and then building on that, the Certified STAR Manager element. If we look at STAR Coach first, this program is all about you. Your style, your habits, how you engage with others, and the impact you have on them every day. It's about becoming aware of what drives you and how you react to situations. As you progress through the program, you begin to learn how to apply the STAR model in daily practice, so that you're able to use more purposeful inquiry more of the time. Finding those opportunities to engage with people differently and drawing on their skills and talents so that they're able to help you get things done. Everybody undertakes STAR Coach to help them adopt new behaviours. And if you don't necessarily have a team that you manage directly, but work across teams, for example, or you're an aspiring manager, or even a senior leader who just wants to be able to engage direct reports more fully, then perhaps this first part of the program is enough for you. And on completion of the program, you receive APMG's STAR Coach accreditation. Aspects of your management style will have changed as a result of this program. Suppose you do have a team, though, where you're responsible for their development, their advancement or career coaching, their appraisal or rewards. In that case, you can either advance straight through to the full Certified Star Manager program or upgrade from Star Coach to Certified Star Manager at a later date. In this second part of the program, you build on the adaptations you've made to your management style to begin to utilize the skills associated with intentionally enabling others to develop and stretch. By understanding more about what drives behaviour and beginning to gain an understanding of the people in your team, you also start to become aware of the skills they have to offer which you're not getting to. You can start to consider how you might begin to encourage those team members to develop their confidence and take on more accountability, enabling them before empowering them, before delegating to them completely. This isn't management by accident, but management on purpose, aimed at building on the skills and capabilities of the team to increase its capacity. Practitioners who undertake this program are quite right to be designated as certified star managers, as they're saying something about their intentional approach towards management and their mindset and the skills they've developed to be able to lead their teams effectively. In the jobs market, we're already seeing certified star managers differentiate themselves from other candidates because no one else can describe their approach or philosophy towards managing others. Star managers are already making a difference to their teams and their employers through having future-proofed their management skills to fit with the unfolding realities that we're all facing. In addition to comprehensive materials from this experiential learning journey, every learner on the programme receives a supporting pack to aid with the embedding of the learning, forming a valuable set of resources to help sustain newly adopted behaviours. For organisations seeking a scalable solution for larger groups of managers and leaders, a blended version of the programme is also available, centrally managed by our mission control team, and which can be rapidly deployed at any scale. As we've seen already, so many roles involve managing other people. Similarly, many technical and vocational qualifications also include a management component, yet don't actually address the how of how you could engage others to leverage your effectiveness in your role or in applying those newly learned skills. The future of work isn't coming, it's here. The managers who succeed in it will be the ones who can unlock the potential of their people, not just direct their tasks. This isn't just another training course, it's a fundamental upgrade to your management operating system. The Certified Star Manager accreditation from APMG says something about you and the intentionality of your management approach. Future-proofing your management skills is critical if you're to differentiate yourself as a manager that can effect change. The question is, are you ready to make that upgrade? If the answer is yes, then we're here to help you do it. You can find out more by using the QR code shown or by going to starmanager.global/APMG.
Hi there, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Dominic, for that brilliant introduction. It's quite clear to see why it's such a popular program.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining everyone, and we're joined now to look through some live questions. Just before I get into the first question from the audience, Dominic, you touched on AI at the start.
Yeah.
Now the program's obviously been around for a few years now. As sort of proliferation of AI now, has that sort of impacted your thinking on the content of the course at all?
Not necessarily on the content. I think it's on the content. It's made it even more relevant because I think what we're seeing now is that managers are struggling to really think about how to bring AI into their organisations, and those managers who are learning this operational coaching style, we're seeing are already more successful engaging their team members in really thinking through how to use these new tools. So I think it's becoming even more relevant, this idea of purposeful inquiry and changing the very tenor and the nature of our intentional management approach.
Great. Okay, let's turn it to the first of our audience questions, and we should see that on the screen in a moment. So you talked about operational coaching. Could you share some of the pedigree that led you to establish the STAR model?
Yes, this is not something that we conjured up overnight. This has been developed over the last 15 years of work with managers and leaders all around the world. It really began a long time ago. My background was in change management consulting, and I noticed that the more that we asked questions, the more the fear of change tended to go down. And the reason why is because even if people have negative answers to those questions, What they now have is certainty, and we can deal with certainty. It's uncertainty that generates fear. And I thought there was something in this. And when I set up Notion, we began life providing change support into really tense change situations. And really what we were doing was working with project managers to help them become more influential in engaging the people they're working with and helping make the change a reality. And when we really got into it, what we were doing was really, generating behavioral work, really helping people change the way they engaged, change how they conducted themselves in the business, change almost their mindset around how they're regarding the people within their teams and the skills and talents they had. And so that really led us to start to codify some of the behaviors that we were helping these managers to adopt into something that became the STAR model. And since that model really took hold, it's really accelerated the rate at which we see now even more and more managers becoming interested in how can I begin to change my behaviors as well, so that I can change the way that I engage with people. And happy to talk more about the STAR model in detail as we go through. But yeah, it's been a long, slow burn, but it's been absolutely grounded in practical experience of working with hundreds, if not thousands, of managers around the world. And these skills are universal. This is about how we engage with people physically, something perhaps none of us are taught when we first become a manager. No one sits you down and says, right, now you're a manager. Here's how you might want to adapt your communication style to better engage with people. So that's what STAR is. That's where it's been generated from.
And what was there was a percent? Was it 80 something percent or accidental?
Yeah, so the Charter Management Institute, this figure's been banding around for a while, but the Charter Management Institute did a really deep survey, and they've established that 82% of all managers are promoted into their role for reasons, any other reason other than their notable people skills. They're typically promoted on their technical capabilities, with literally no preparation at all to take on the people side of their roles. That's not to say that throughout their careers they won't receive some development training, but even then, it doesn't necessarily focus on the how. The how do I engage people? How can I help encourage them to contribute at a higher level?
Great, thanks, Dominic. So next question, how does STAR Manager integrate into the workflow of a manager who's already stretched for time? Great question.
That is a really good question, and I think at the heart of this whole approach is the recognition that managers work in incredibly busy times. The demands on them, the number of interactions they'll have in a day, are myriad. So how can they then be expected to behave in a different way? And so a lot of organizations have invested very heavily in coaching and skills training. And a number of the organizations we worked with have moaned to us that having spent millions sheep dipping all their managers through these manager as coach programs, it's actually contributed nothing to the organization, no notable impact. So we did a lot of research to understand why. And what we discovered was that managers are being taught executive coaching models. When organizations went to the training market to try and find training for coaching, the only training that exists is teaching people how to be an executive coach. So they lifted up this training, they dropped it into their businesses, they relabeled it as manager as coach. And managers are being taught how to run a coaching session. And there's something lost in that because no one's really ever thought about, well, how does this work for a busy manager? And no one's ever addressed the discomfort of trying to be an honest coach to someone who works directly for you when you're holding an agenda for them yourselves. It is really uncomfortable. So what we found was that managers who go through these programs, those skills that they might have learned during that training typically become neglected within about 4 months, which is just unbelievable. So really the focus of operational coaching is exactly the opposite of that. It's thinking, right, well, there's some good stuff within coaching, but actually it's the behavioral aspects that no one's ever really looked at. How can we help managers to adopt coaching related behaviors that make a difference into their daily style? And that's why it brings it into the workflow, because what we're recognizing is that rather than trying to change everyone else's behavior, this is about us as managers making some adaptations to how we engage with people throughout the day, which then brings the insights and this approach that we have into that daily flow of work. So what managers tend to develop is a skill for just tuning into those moments throughout the day where, rather than directing or fixing a problem for someone, they have a moment where they're able to flip that on its head and for a moment pause and think about, actually, what question could I ask this person right now to help them from where they are at right now, that's going to stimulate their thinking. And the benefit of that is, now I'm not stepping into the problem. If I can ask a question of someone and have them engage in their problem solving skills, then I help them retain accountability. I help them define an action that they can take. I can support them to take that action. I can follow up with them. And so there's a complete shift in the dynamic away from me being the problem solver to me being the enabler of other people. And that's how it's brought into the everyday workflow. This is about an intention. It's about a management style where I'm looking out for those opportunities throughout the day where asking questions can drive more powerful outcomes than me taking the work on myself the whole time.
Brilliant. Thanks, Dominic. Next question is from one of those accidental managers. So I lead a team of 3. I've not had any formal leadership training and an accidental manager. What course would you recommend I do, coach or manager? So I think that's, where does someone like that start with the STAR program?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're asked that a lot. Everybody starts with coach, and I think that's the really fundamental thing. I think most of us will admit we've never really been led through any form of program where we get to examine ourselves and perhaps more importantly, the impact we have on people every day. And it's only when we start to examine some of the conversations we've had, think about the common situations we face each day, the circumstances of those situations, that you start to recognize that there are things that you might do differently which might lead to a better outcome. So everyone goes through coach, and I think that's really important. And I think the answer to the question whether you go on and do the full STAR manager is the responsibilities you've been asked to do as that manager. If you are responsible for cultivating those people and helping them advance, or you're responsible for their annual appraisals, their performance reviews, then I think it's incumbent upon all of us to go through and become a certified STAR manager. But the beauty is everyone starts with coach and they carry on and roll on to make it a full certified STAR manager, or they come back to that second half later on. But I would say if you have a team and you're responsible for that team and part of your role is to help them advance, then you should do the full certified STAR manager. And by the way, one of the biggest challenges in organizations we hear all the time is that organizations don't know how to handle succession planning or succession development, and it's because they don't have a technique for developing those successors. But what we find already is that STAR managers are very confident and very comfortable with inviting people to step up, with stretching their capabilities, helping them take on work that's maybe outside of their comfort zone and supporting them to do that. So they're actually helping team members advance, and right there is the technique for succession development. I mean, if you are an intentional manager, part of your role must be developing the people in your charge, and that's something that I think all too often falls to the bottom of our list because we're incredibly busy. But if we can flip that list over, we will win time back, and that's absolutely critical.
Good stuff. Thanks, Dominic. So you've kind of touched on a lot of the benefits already, but a good opportunity to sort of summarise. The next question is, what can a learner expect when they undertake the STAR Manager program?
They can expect to be challenged. I think that the feedback that we have from people coming to the program is they thought they knew stuff, but the insights that they developed through the program, I think firstly they're their insights. The program is an experiential program. It's not a teaching program. It's not a typical training course. You're not going to get a course leader at the front of the room banging their chest saying, you should do this, you should. It is an immersive program where this is all about you. It's the learning that you generate through this. And if you do the workshop program, you're with other managers who are really going to be exploring the same thing with you. You'll be working together, discussing some of these themes, practicing some ideas. But the learning that you generate together is exactly that. It's your learning. And of course, that relates then to you and your work circumstance. So everybody is almost having their own individual learning journey because it depends on who they are, the size of their team, the nature of the work they're engaged in. But everybody, I think, comes out with a different appreciation of themselves. And I think that's really important. And some of the feedback we have, it's difficult to summarize it, but it's almost a sense of relief. And I think it's exactly because, we're thrown in the deep end as a manager. And perhaps yesterday we were in the team, now we're managing the team, and there's this uncomfortable frisson between well, how am I supposed to engage with people now I'm the boss? And it's really challenging. We have that imposter syndrome, but learning how to use purposeful inquiry. Questions are very political, right? If you're asking someone a question which they detect as an authentic question, and you're signaling that you're really interested in what they have to say, you almost can't go wrong with that. The risks are very, very low. You're pulling people towards you. And then if you're able to help them define an action that they can take forward and you follow up with them, and you're able then to give them some appropriate either appreciative feedback or some constructive feedback, they see that as a manager, you're coming from a good place. You're trying to be an effective manager. And our experience of having run these programs over the years is that managers really surprise themselves with the impact that they now have, and more importantly, how their teams respond to them. Because I think the team senses that at least they're trying to be a good manager, and wouldn't we all want that? Wouldn't we all want a manager who's actually trying to be better and trying to do that authentically? So I think they can expect an immersive program where they'll learn about themselves. I think they'll be surprised. I think some things that will happen will mean that they'll never go back. I think what we see is almost a switch goes on. Once you've tried some of this stuff and you've seen the impact it has and how people respond to you. We're working with an organisation in the States right now. One of the senior ladies there we were working with, I remember she said, the problem with your program, she says, I can't unlearn this. She's going into work. She says, I see everybody differently. I'm seeing all the stuff we're not getting to, all the talents they've got to offer that we're not even touching. And she said, so it's my mission now to find ways of creating work where they can show us what they can do and they can bring more of themselves to work. I mean, that's just fantastic. I mean, isn't that an environment we'd all want to work in? And you could be that manager. It's not hard to learn. It's intentional. It's immersive. But once that light and once that switch goes on, people never go back.
I suppose that's exactly what you wanted to hear as well as the designer of the program.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a journey for us. I mean, this program, in its online form, the online program took us 2 years to build. It's won multiple awards. I mean, the whole program's won multiple awards, precisely because it is a learning program rather than a teaching program.
Brilliant. Right, next question. What does the journey from traditional manager to coach-like manager actually look like?
I've got a different question on the screen.
That's
fine. The journey from traditional manager to coach-like manager. Well, I think the traditional manager is one that's under pressure because they're not quite sure what they should be doing. And just as evidence of that, we often work with senior leaders, and we run an exercise which is really interesting called "Should This Be Me?" And in that exercise, we invite people to really think about the work they do each week and really assess whether that should sit with them or not. And surprisingly, and you saw in the presentation there, the amount of busy work, the amount of time we spend doing is 45%. That's on average. But we've had senior managers identify that upwards of 60% of the work they do each week shouldn't sit with them. And it begs the question, and this is true for all managers as well, perhaps not to the same extent, but when we examine the reasons why, it's precisely because when we became a manager, no one's really explained to us what it is we're supposed to be doing, that we keep hold of previous aspects of our previous role, because that gives us certainty that we're still contributing value. So working through this program, you start to recognize some of that stuff, and actually part of the impact of the program is starting to let go of some of that stuff by enabling team members to begin to take that from you confidently. You can't just chuck it over the fence and delegate and say, you do that now. So how do you enable people and build their confidence before you empower them, before eventually fully delegating to them and getting out from under that stuff that shouldn't sit with you, which is how you start to win that time back. And this is really serious. You know, we've got highly paid managers doing work of the level beneath them. And so the destruction of value is absolutely massive, and we need to free up managers and free their time to do more of the strategic thinking, more of the leadership, and investing more time developing their team. I mean, you as a manager, it's not about you doing the work, it's about you managing and enabling a team and developing its capacity for it to do the work and be the enabling coaching manager.
Brilliant. Thanks, Dominic. We had a preview of the next question, didn't we? So, when looking at career progression, how effective do you feel having this qualification helps in becoming more desirable in a job application or a job market?
Yeah, this is a core passion. We have scoured the world. We cannot find a program anywhere which addresses almost without getting all highfalutin here, addresses almost the philosophy or the intentionality of management. There are thousands of management development courses, but they all tend to focus on the what of management. You know, I'm going to go on a feedback skills course. I'm going to go on a employment law course. I'm going to go on a course about how to do the appraisals. It's all episodic training, and we take nuggets from that and we sort of bolt that on and develop what we actually call our Frankenstein manager persona. Is bolted together from all the experiences that we have that makes us who we are today. But in terms of career progression, undertaking this program where you really learn about intentionally performing as an enabling manager is giving you the ability in an interview situation or when you're applying for a job to really be able to talk to your employer about, actually, when you bring me on and you invite me to work with this team, this is what I'm going to be bringing you. This is how I work with the team. This is how I interact with them. This is how I'm going to be working myself out of a job, because I'm going to be working to develop a natural successor, at which point you'll see the value in me and you'll promote me to the next team. I'm going to do the same again. We already have people getting top jobs because they can talk about the intentionality of their management. If you can't talk about the how of how you're going to do that, then you're just a busy worker.
Great answer. And I think I think we'll take the last question here, and it's a question you'll love, Dominic. So, how do I sign up for the Star Manager Certification Program?
Well, through APMG, we already have training organizations who are approved to offer the workshop program. So if that's a favored approach, then I would encourage you to go to starmanager.global/APMG, or go to the APMG international website directly, where you can look up various courses there, and we're there, and you can find a training organization that's offering this. For those of you who might have a larger team, or be in a position where you're interested in bringing operational coaching into your organization, then the online version of the program we run at scale. Just by way of example, we're working with the University of Warwick right now, and they are putting all 2,500 of their line managers through this program. and it's just generating just a significant impact in terms of their culture, the whole mood of the university, of how people are operating differently and engaging their workforce, and actually reporting their level of enjoyment in their jobs as managers as increasing, which I think is absolutely critical given the state of chaos that's out there right now. So again, starmanager.global will be the website to find out more about that. So if you're interested in workshops, starmanager.global/APMG, but starmanager.global if you're interested in pursuing the online program, both of which lead to exactly the same qualification through APMG. But yeah, reach out. The more star managers in the world, just a better world it's going to be, really. And I can say that honestly because we've worked with organizations already, organizations like Amino Communications, where they put this right across their entire management and leadership ranks, and it's just changed everything. And in fact, that's the byline of the book that we wrote. The answer is a question. This is the missing superpower that changes everything, and it really does.
Great stuff, and a great note to start winding up on. So we will start winding up there. Dominic mentioned the two websites there, and don't worry if you didn't manage to scribble them down. We'll send a follow-up email to everyone that's registered for the session, and that'll include clear links out to those and other bits and pieces. So do look out for that. We'll try and get that out this afternoon. So that just leaves me to thank Dominic first of all for your insight today. Great overview of the program. Sure that's given viewers plenty of food for thought, and hopefully a lot of those will be checking out the program as we speak. So thank you very much, Dominic, and thank you very much everyone for attending. Thank you for getting questions in. Hope we've answered those okay, and that's a wrap. So thanks again everyone, and hope to see you on future APMG events. Bye bye now.
Thanks very much.